It was a sunny day. George decided to play hide and seek with Pepper. This time, he wanted to find the best hiding spot where Pepper would never think to look and where it would be safe. So, when no one was watching, he climbed into a trash can. It was quite comfortable there. George could sit there for a long time. At this time, Pepper was looking for him and couldn't find him anywhere. The hiding place really seemed good. After a while, he even started to fall asleep. But then, he felt something strange. Daddy Pig tied the trash bag and put it outside. Mr. Bull came to pick up the bag, as he usually does, but he didn't know that George was inside. After Mr. Bull threw the bag into the garbage collector, George woke up and tried to understand what was happening. He started screaming, but no one could hear him because of the noisy machine. His heart started beating faster and his breathing became heavier. He quickly felt a lack of oxygen and managed to rip the bag. He looked around and realized where he was. He was very scared. He just sat and cried, waiting for the machine to stop. But it kept going and going until it reached the dump. George thought everything was over and he could run out and ask Mr. Bull for help. But then the garbage started pouring out. A pile of garbage fell on George at the dump. George managed to get out of there. He was all dirty with waste. And Mr. Bull has already driven off. He looked around and saw that there was stench everywhere and there were no edges of this dump. Waste was brought here from several settlements. He decided that Mr. Bull would come to this place the next day and he could ask him to take him home, so he just had to wait here for some time. But it would be torturous. George was dirty with something sticky, and there were no means of survival here, nothing to do. All he did was dig through the trash, looking for something interesting. Until suddenly he realized he was hungry. All he could find was a couple of apple cores, a couple of half-rotten pears, and moldy bread. He ate a couple of apple cores. It was unpleasant, but the feeling of hunger started to pass. By evening, he was very thirsty. He found a few rotten tomatoes in a bag. They were very soft and had leaked juice. George made a hole in the bag and drank the contents. It was the most disgusting thing he had ever tasted in his life. But it was already getting dark, so George would have to spend the night somewhere. He was afraid of the dark and needed to find some cozy spot. He found it. He put a few torn clothes under himself and covered himself with a blanket he found. In the morning, he would wake up and wait for this machine. Either it would wake him up with its noise. He was sure that everything would be fine the next day. And when morning came, the machine really did come, waking him up.